Apparently, there are people on Twitter that are arguing the fact that Fallout is and has always been pro-communist propaganda. Because apparently these individuals believe that any criticism to the United States, any criticism whatsoever, means that the solution is to deconstruct the US and to rebuild the communist utopia. Like, there are no other ideologies that are possible. You don't have tribalism, you don't have monarchy, you don't have fascism, you don't have theocracies. No, it's either American unrestrained crony capitalism or communism. Like, those are the alternatives. But anyway, going back to the brain take that Fallout is promoting communism. In Fallout 2, you can actually become a slaver. And the game rewards you for doing that. There is like one of the first quest lines is to get a guy called Sulik. And Sulik is going to become a very powerful companion later on. He's really good at the SMGs and he's very good with melee weapons as well. But in order to get him, you got to go to this slave trader that has captured Sulik, and you need to pay in order to get Sulik's freedom. Is that like a game that promotes communism? Is that Would that game be allowed today? Would Bethesda even try to make such a quest line? Of course not. I mean, the same decent people on Twitter that love Fallout so much, they would freak out if such a quest line was in a game today. Like they would call the company racist. They would do all sorts of things in order to try to boycott and convince people not to play the game. They would freak out. They wouldn't allow such a game to exist. And by the way, in Fallout, you can do even worse. Like after buying Sulik, you can talk to Metzger and you can become a slaver yourself. So now you can go into the wasteland and capture people and send them back to Metzger and he will pay you cash for that. Do you think that would be allowed in a modern game? How can we allow intensifies? Of course not. But the interesting thing is that in Fallout, you actually had the player freedom. Because on one hand, you can do that. But on the other hand, you could just choose to avoid the quest line, level up, gain experience, become powerful, get better gear. And then you go back and you just shoot Metzger and you don't pay for anything. And you clear out all the slavers in the wasteland. And you can have a completely different play style. Like Fallout wasn't pro-communist or anything like that. It was just allowing the player to have the freedom and the choices to create his own narratives, to create his own immersion. Video games in the past did that. Video games today would never do that. They would never allow you to have like a quest line that is with slavery and certain themes that the liberal mind would find offensive. Because the game journalists even wrote that the player shouldn't be given choice because they could make the wrong choice. And it's this idea that like the player shouldn't be allowed to make his own morality, to make his own freedom. I remember like when I first played Half-Life, one of the first scenes in the game has a a security guard, Barney, and at that point in the game when you meet him, you don't have a gun, but he does, right? So you can accompany him and he's going to use his gun in order to clear up the head crabs. But if you kill him, you get his gun, right? So it's like the first weapon in the game that you get. And many players opt in to actually kill the security guard. They kill Barney and they take his gun. Other players don't. And the thing is, like, that moral dilemma of whether or not you want to take this security guard's gun has no ramifications in the game. Like, it's just how you want to play Gordon Freeman, how you want to react. Like, do you want to take an innocent life just to take his gun in that situation, or do you allow Barney to live? That is a good game. Like, that is something amazing done. There's no moral compass, there's no good and right. Like, you can craft your own narrative. And this is what modern AAA games do not want you to do. They do not want to allow you to do any sort of thing. Like, if Half-Life was made today, the moment you kill Barney, it would give you like a black screen and be like, you have killed a civilian. You know, like some shit like that, and then you have to reload the game. So yeah, no, I don't think that Fallout was communist propaganda. Now, Fallout allowed the player to do most of the decisions that he wanted. You can say that it treats America as being evil, or that it treats rich people as being immoral, and that is true, but that's not communist propaganda. That's just like a criticism to the American system. And the solution to the American system can be more freedom, like less government intervention, less government authority, less, if the government can't tax you as much, then they don't have the money to do the evil that they do. So no, like you can say, well, Fallout is a very libertarian type of game. It encourages smaller government. The Enclave wouldn't have the technology and the money to finance the shit that they did if they didn't tax the American taxpayer to oblivion. So no, I mean, it depends how you interpret it. But that's the beauty of it, right? Like when you play a game like Fallout, and it allows the player to come up with his own conclusions. Meanwhile, a game like Life is Strange is trying to hammer the points in your head. MAGA bad. People who do not want mass immigration in America bad. Democrats good. Right? That is a game that actually has propaganda in it. And by the way, I find it absolutely funny that communists are trying to latch on to Fallout, especially when it has Liberty Prime as one of the most famous characters in video game history. You know, that robot that just walks around chanting anti-communist messages. And they will say, well, yeah, but like that's a parody for the Cold War. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, people like it. I don't care the intent of the author. Liberty Prime is an amazing character, and the reason he is that is because he is anti-communist. And not to mention, there was the conflict with China that was also being discussed. And if you read about what's happening in communist China in the Fallout universe, the writers do not describe it as a utopia either. If anything, I would consider Fallout to be more of a warning against military conflict. And as the criticism that humanity has, where if you look throughout history, war is the normal and peace is the exception. So when they say war never changes, which is literally how every single Fallout game starts, it basically tries to make a criticism to the human nature towards violence. And I would say like that is actually what the original authors intended, more so than to try and criticize capitalism in favor of communism or any other such nonsense. I mean, there's even a plot line that some of it managed to get into Fallout 3 DLC, but the rest of it is just in the books. And it talks about how the Americans had the power armor, but when they were fighting the Chinese in the Battle for Alaska, the Chinese had stealth suits. And the stealth suits had the side effect that it was making the soldiers go insane. They would go psychotic. They wanted to use this plotline a little bit more in the Fallout game that got cancelled. Like the original Fallout 3 that wasn't supposed to be made by Bethesda had this plotline where the Brotherhood of Steel was starting to use these stealth suits and they would get insane. They would get psychotic. But this would be a criticism towards communist regimes, right? Like, this was the Red Menace that was using it, and they were fine with allowing their soldiers to suffer mental trauma and mental damage just so that they can win against the Americans. So, no, like, Fallout criticizes war. It's in the very first statement that war never changes, and it basically shows that regardless of who's in charge or regardless of the system that the country has, they're still going to commit atrocities because war is in human nature and it's always dehumanizing, gritty, and ugly. And the rich benefit, the rich are sitting in their bunkers and they continue on with their lives while the people that they rule over are sacrificing themselves in the trenches. Like, that is the message that I genuinely think the developers of Fallout wanted people to have, not that, oh, well, if we have communism, then we wouldn't have war. No, that's not it. It also talks about the shortage of resources and human consumption and blah, blah, blah. But notice that even the communist governments, they want resources as well. So, like, the Red Chinese, they want the oil and they want Alaska as well. It's not like, oh, it's only the Americans that are exploiting Mother Gaia. That's not what the developers said in the game. So yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous to say that Fallout is communist propaganda. No, I completely reject it. Anyone that says this hasn't played the game or just wanted to see what they wanted to see. Let me know what you guys think though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.